Välkomna till Rapportkommentarer Direkt. Med oss på länk från England har vi Richard Paxman, vd för företaget Paxman. Som vanligt kommer vi att köra intervjun på engelska. Hi Richard, great to have you with us today.
Good morning, pleasure to be here also.
Congratulations to yet another strong quarter as well.
Yeah, we're really pleased with our quarter this year, and then our performance for the 3 months. It's been a good and positive year so far.
Yes, the group sales amounted to 23 million kronor for the third quarter, which equal to 43% growth compared to last year. And during the same period, your earnings are equal to 4.4 million kronor. What's the reason behind these numbers?
So, of course, much of the improvement in performance relates to our overseas activities, both rest of world and the US market. In fact, if we look at the same period for our UK business and what we consider our rest of world business, which includes sort of our overseas markets with the exclusion of America, grew at about 26% from last year, or 27%, I think, which is substantial growth and above targets. And then if we look at our business in the US, although I'd like to see faster enrollments and utilization, of course, we've seen significant growth. So in fact, I think at around a rate of 70 to 80% from the same period of last year. So really helping drive that growth in the business overall. So we're very pleased with performance, but we'll continue to strive to see continued growth.
Let's talk about geographical regions. Last time you mentioned that the focus was on the United States. Asia was mentioned as well. What's your current view on these markets and others?
So our focus still has to continue being in the US. We've made significant investments, not only into the infrastructure that supports our growing installation base, but actually our installation base. So you've seen the numbers, and you'll see at our reasonably good rollout rate into the US based on the huge amounts of interest we have in the technology. But it's great installing, but now we need to start seeing those sites improving their utilization. And I think that ultimately comes from greater awareness, so our continued efforts with advocacy groups, marketing, etc. We've got some exciting opportunities with our website and things that we're looking at for the future. But also, more importantly, getting some level of reimbursement. And that remains a big focus of Paxman. We're investing heavily, as we've explained in the Q3 report, into that area because we believe with the efforts we're making, we'll be successful, and that will really help the business grow. In terms of Asia, Japan, you'll have seen, is performing very nicely. 2019 March saw Shonin approval with 20 systems ordered relatively quickly, and then that further 30 systems that are going to be installed by the end of the year. And next year is also looking very promising. Back to that market, we have to remember it is a two-model market with selling capital equipment, but also selling single patient use cooling caps, something we want to do elsewhere in the world. But Japan is very geared for it. So again, excited about that potential growth. Other parts of Asia, we must do more. China is a potential for us, still working on that, but not an absolute priority. And then some of the other markets in Asia, which I think we can do more, and we will do more as the business has more resource to put more effort into those markets.
Very exciting. So how's the operation in South Africa going?
So South Africa is a little bit slower than I would have expected, but still positive. I would have expected our first orders already in this quarter, but bearing in mind we're only partway through November. So I'm very positive that we'll start to see some orders at the end of the year and beginning of Q1. The general appetite and the pre-work we've already done into that market is suggesting some positive movement. So yeah, these things always take time, and we've learned to be patient.
And you're about to launch the Scalp Cooling System in Pakistan, an Asian market with 220 million inhabitants. What is your view on Pakistan compared to other Asian markets where you are already established?
So I think it will be a slower market perhaps than a market like Japan. I think that would be related to the sort of status of the healthcare market or how progressed the healthcare market is with regards to supportive care and what the payer mix is, I guess, private versus public. A very large population, and growing middle income, which is positive for the type of product we have. So we're just finalising our launch plan and registration, and once we have that, we're able to really start to understand the market some more. But there's some very big centres that are showing some very keen interest. So I'm again confident that in 2020 we'll start to see some progression there.
Could you please talk a little bit more about Japan? What's going on there, your business activities?
So as you know, we got shown in approval in March 2020. It takes some time to work in Japan, not only from a cultural standpoint, relationship building, but then the requirements for clinical trials, and then, of course, the registration period. So we've been working on that market for many years, building some very strong relationships up with a number of key opinion leaders around the country, a bit like we did in the US, I guess, really forming those relationships in many parts of the country. So as I said earlier, we've sold our first 20 systems into the market, which are now being placed. We have a further 30 systems to be delivered by the end of the year, which will be rolled out by our Japanese distributor over the coming months. It's too early really to talk about utilization of those units, although based on ordering an additional 30 and providing a strong forecast for next year, provides me a good understanding that utilization is looking promising. I think, again, it goes back to the work that we put into that market and the investments that both ourselves and the distributor has made over the years, is we've already got a good and solid basis in terms of customers and relationships. So positive going forward. I think it also have some positive impact on other parts of Asia as well, a leading healthcare market that others look to for best practice.
Moving on, what about your long-term goals? Are they still the same?
Long-term goals pretty much are similar. Again, they're unlikely to change massively, but we're really pushing our US market and seeing that utilization increase with reimbursement, and that will maintain our focus, which is ultimately going to see a very successful business.
Let's talk a little bit about research and development. What's happening at your research center in Huddersfield?
So we opened the R&D Centre earlier this year, and really that's about always staying ahead of the curve, and that's what we like to do at Paxman. We've invested heavily into our product and our cooling caps over the year, but that doesn't mean we don't want to always improve and strive for improvement. So the two areas we're looking at is something topical to enhance scalp cooling, and also ultimately the personalization of cooling caps for the future. So we're on target to what the milestones we've set, with some promising results and some exciting ideas, which actually I presented to our board yesterday. So moving along nicely, with a view maybe to expedite some areas in 2020. But the team has grown, and I've done some fantastic research to date to really drive our focus and ideas for 2020.
Looking forward, where will your focus be for this quarter?
For this quarter, it feels like a strange question when we're already partway through it. Again, what we're very interested in is seeing that growth in not only our rest of world markets, but our US market. But internally, as I mentioned in the Q3 report, we've just put a new senior leadership team in place, which is a huge support for me in the business, really to drive the business forward. So we're working a lot internally and making sure that now our 48 strong team, which has grown considerably in the last 2 years, is working as effectively as possible together. We're already seeing the results from that. some other additional exciting things that we're launching is a clinical pioneer program. So we've been doing that in the UK for some time, but now we're focusing on doing that in the US. And that's really about sort of building advocates and super users of our equipment into the US. So our nursing staff, physicians, assistants, navigators, etc. The real drivers behind our enrollments.
And finally, any specific dates or events that investors should look out for in regards to Paxman?
No specific dates at present. Of course, our results in February for Q4. But just keep watching what we're doing. We're active on social media, and we're active with our press releases. So we're expecting a positive Q4, strong order book, as you'll have seen in the report, and we have a lot of activity ongoing. So keep watching what we're doing, and we'll keep you updated.
We will. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Thank you. Been great to speak to you.